Hi and welcome to today's episode in which we bow down to the mightiest of buns, Bao. If you haven't come across them before, they're a little, how to describe them, almost like a clam shape of bread. You steam the bread so it's lovely and soft and tender and very fluffy. Stuff it with delicious things and nom 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 nom. Happy Rachel. I was walking back to my car after choir rehearsal last week and walked past a Vietnamese place that was serving bao and thought I'm going to grab a quick bit of dinner because I'm starving and tired. Ordered a couple of bao. I had one that was stuffed with tofu and one that was stuffed with vegan chicken. Both were delicious but expensive. I think it was £13 for two, which when you factor in what it is, I figured it might make a nice video for the channel. I've never made them myself before, so I thought I'd share how to make them. I did some Googling to find a recipe and one of the first ones that came up was from Domestic Goddess. I've made several of their recipes and they're always amazing. So I trust the recipes, I trust that they're going to work, and I will link to that recipe down in the description. The main point of the video is to show you how to make the bun itself, but I'll talk you through the fillings I'm going to put in there as well. First step is to make a dough and then that needs to rise for an hour, so I'll get cracking with that. With baking, it is always better to use grams because you're going to get much more precision. So we need 300 grams of plain flour, all-purpose flour. That's about 2.5 cups. We need 5 grams of instant yeast. So I've grabbed one of these little sachets. There's going to be at least 5 grams. There might be a little bit more. The box doesn't say, annoyingly, but it should be like 1.5 teaspoons. So stick that in. I'm going to add in a teaspoon of baking powder. The recipe doesn't state why they use baking powder and yeast. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to follow the recipe and stick it in. And then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of golden caster sugar. You can use any kind of sugar. And then I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt. Am I? That's a lot of salt. Well, I'll do it and then I'll tell you if it's too much. I'll sieve this together. So I'm just going to mix that all together. I need to add some plant-based milk to this. The recipe says it's best to use soy milk because soy has got the most close to cow milk. The recipe doesn't state if that's important for the recipe or if that's more dietary, nutritional kind of thing. So I think what I might do is put in like a half teaspoon of soy protein isolate because I'm going to use oat milk. So I don't know if this is necessary and I looked in the notes and couldn't really see anything, but we'll stick it in. So I'm just going to push a little well in the middle. That's where I'll drop the liquids. I've got a tablespoon of sunflower oil. It's like 15 mils. Apparently the oil is to keep the dough really soft. I think it could be the case that oil disrupts the gluten from forming. And then I'm going to do 90 mils of plant milk, which is 6 tablespoons. The recipe just says milk. It doesn't say warm milk, but it does say warm water. And then I'll do 90 mils of water. Again, 6 tablespoons. I'm going to combine these. Now the dough apparently is going to be a little bit sticky, but I may need to add a little bit more flour. Put a silicone mat down, it'll stop it from sticking to the counter. Gloop the dough in, and then we're going to knead this for about 10 minutes. Oh, it's very sticky. Yeah, I think I might need to do 1 more tablespoon of flour. That's going to be a problem. Bring that together. I'm glad I did it on the silicone because I would be losing a lot on the counter, but this is annoying. It is still very sticky, so I'm going to do what I can, and if I need to, I'll add another tablespoon. Yeah, I'm going to put in another tablespoon of flour. The risk of putting too much flour in is that the buns are really dry. Yeah, see, that's a bit better. So once the dough is at a consistency where you can knead it easily, you just want to move things around. If you've had your yeast in the cupboard for a while, test it before chucking it in your recipe. So to do that, you just want a little bit, like a small cup of warm water, and put in like half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of the yeast and leave it for a few minutes. And if it goes foamy, the yeast is alive. If it doesn't, it means your yeast is dead. I had a pot of yeast left from when I did the savoury swirl buns back in, it was either September or October last year, which is 4 or 5 months, and it was all dead, which is a shame because there was a massive quantity that I then had to just chuck out. So it is a little bit sticky, but certainly nowhere near as bad as it was. The dough for the buns is all done. We can get that in an oiled bowl, bit of oil in, and then use a pastry brush, just spread it around. Just taking it far up the sides, because we're looking for the dough to kind of double in size. So I'm going to tuck that in, Gonna drape a damp tea towel over the top just to make sure it doesn't dry out. It's a bit chilly in the house and I've not got the heating on, so I'm now gonna have to find somewhere to put this to prove, because you need the dough to double in size. I was gonna put it in the oven with the light on, and then realised I'm about to make some cookies in another video, so I can't do that. I've got an electric blanket, so I might put it on the lowest setting and put it on the blanket. We're at like 4:45, so at 5:45 we will come back and pick it back up again. The dough's been rising for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. The cookies took a little bit longer than I thought they were gonna. So if you can hear a bit of whirring, I've got the fan on in the oven. The smell in the kitchen is incredible. I'm gonna have to kind of break off a little bit just so I can take cookies out of the oven. Here we are with the dough. That has risen considerably. I'm gonna knock some of the air out. The only time punching down is acceptable. I've got a plate set up with cling film. As I roll each ball, I'll put them under the cling film so they don't dry out. So dope that out. So you can see it's very puffy and it sounds full of air. So I'm just gonna give it a quick knead just to get that air out, and then I'm gonna weigh it 555. So each little ball needs to be 55.5 grams. So I've got some chocolate chip oatmeal cookies. Nom, 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 nom. The instructions on the recipe are: roll each piece into a ball by gathering the edges up and pinching them together. Keep going until you have a neat, well-sealed ball. I couldn't visualize that, so I've had a look on YouTube and found a video from Statler Made. I'll link to that in the description. So I'm going to start with that end. I'll fold that into the middle. Take that end, fold that into the middle. Oven timer's going off. Same again. That side in, that side in. Gather it up. And the motion I'm doing is kind of this underneath, and then that should form a nice smooth little ball. It's a nice soft pliable dough, and the purpose of this, according to Statler, is it stretches the gluten into shape so you get nice structure. The Domestic Gothess recipe, they use a bamboo steamer basket. I do have one of them, but it's a small one, so I'd only probably get 2 of the bao in. I'm going to use a metal steamer basket. So I'm going to use my saute pan for this because it's nice and deep. This is a non-stick pan though, so I'm going to put this down, but first I'll add a bit of water. And then I'm going to put this in because I don't want these metal feet anywhere near my pan. So then I'm going to put that on there for a second, closed. Put a bit more water in. Open that out. What I also need to do is put a tea towel under, or put the tea towel like that properly, and that's going to stop the condensation dripping onto the buns. In this dish here, I'm just going to pour in some sunflower oil, and I'm going to brush that on the buns. I've got some pieces of baking paper, so I need to roll one of the balls into 9 by 13 oval. I'm going to try not oiling it. We'll see how that works. I'm going to brush the top of it with oil, and this, I assume, is going to stop the 2 halves sticking together. Oh, I know what I should have done. I should have lifted it before I did the oil, just to get it loose. I'm going to take it and lift it like that and drop that onto the paper, and then I'll put that in the basket. So I have managed to get 5 in there. I think 5 is reasonable because I now need to leave them for 40 minutes to rise. I'm just going to poke a few holes in just to make sure the steam can escape in places. Okay, so I'll put the lid on. I'm going to shape the remaining 5 and fold them and then let everything kind of rise together. The kitchen is hopefully warm enough now. It's going to take me at least 5 minutes at least to do the remaining buns, so I'll see how much they've swollen in that time. Once they have risen, the second batch I'll put in the fridge just so they don't continue to rise. So once everything's risen, that's when we'll come back. I'll get them steaming at the same time as making the fillings. The buns have risen, so I've got them on the heat. I'll explain that in a second. So I'll show you the rise. You can see they're very puffy, very fluffy. The trouble I've got with my stove is it's induction. You've got to take the heat up slowly, otherwise you can buckle the bottom of the pan, because the directions on the recipe are put the pan over a high heat, and once it comes to a boil, drop it down to a medium. I can't do that. So I've had to start at 2 and then after a minute or 2 go up to 4 and so on and so forth. Yeah, I can hear it bubbling, so I'm going to knock it to a 5 and then they're going to steam for 10 minutes and then I need to take them off the heat, leave them for 5 minutes, don't touch it, and then they're done, and then I'll put the second batch in. So in the meantime, I'll work on the other bits and pieces. I've sliced up some tofu and I've just been patting it on a paper towel. So I'm going to make up a quick little marinade glaze type of thing. I'm going to use some ketchup mayonnaise. It's like a sweet, sticky, gloopy soy sauce. This one hasn't got a very strong flavour, so I'm going to add a little bit of superior dark soy sauce. Some tamarind paste. The flavour of it's kind of tangy, a little bit iron-like maybe, so it's very thick, dark paste. I'll mix that together. That's probably more than I need. I'm just going to brush it on, flip it over. All right, so I'll get that in the air fryer, and I'll start the air fryer once I've put the second batch on. Iceberg gets a lot of hate, but the good thing about it is that even when it's hot, it kind of keeps a bit of its crunch, which is why it's great in burgers. I'm taking the pan off the heat and I've set the timer for 5 minutes and then I'll take them out, put the second batch in. I've grabbed a wire rack, so the steamed buns I'll put on this. So let's have a little look-see. And then I've got my other batch. I'm going to check how much water's in there. So I'll put the air fryer on. So I'm just nudging the side of it up gently. Pour a bit more boiling water in. I mean, these just look incredible. Yes, you do. Are they opening? Yes, okay. Should I take them off the paper? Maybe? I'm just thinking because the paper's a bit wet and they are a bit skew with. Like that one's kind of slid, it's a bit drunk. Hey you guys. So while that's on, I'll continue to do my fillings. I've got some carrot. I'm going to use my julienne peeler. So can you see there the teeth? So it just does nice little strips, because I think having the raw carrot and the iceberg as well will give a really nice bit of crunch. And then I'll do some spring onion. That's the second batch done, needs its 5 minutes rest. But I've grabbed 3 of the first batch. I'm going to pop them in the microwave for 20 seconds just to heat them back up, and then we'll build one up and do some nomming. Before I put them in the microwave, I made sure to open them just in case. I'm going to go a little bit of iceberg, a little bit of carrot. I think I'm going to split the tofu pieces in half. Some sauerkraut, an onion, and then a couple fresh coriander leaves, and then a little drizzle of sriracha. I have to say, I think we should all bow down before these bow, because they are looking banging. Yes, look at that. Yum. Texture of the kind of bun dough part, it feels nice and bouncy. It's not really a neat way of doing this, so. That's magical. The bun is exactly how I've had it from takeaways. Very soft and pillowy. I had a mild concern that they were going to be like stodgy, but they're not at all. Ooh. If I pinch it, can you see how it's springing back? Very, very fluffy. Do they take a fair bit of work? Yes, they do. No getting around that. But boy, are they worth it. The recipe author says they freeze really well. So it's definitely something you could spend an afternoon batch cooking and then just freeze them. I was really worried about my hand because I injured my hand back in the summer, and I was worried about the amount of kneading, but the dough's really soft, so it doesn't take much effort, and I'm not in any pain, which is great. That's the second batch of them. I think I overproved them a little bit because I can see bubbles, like air bubbles in them, but that's not affecting the flavour of them at all. And I'm doing the edit. Any other filling ideas that come to mind that I've done videos of, I'll stick them down in the video description along with a link to that video. You just want lots of different textures. That's the main thing, for me at least. Textures, since going vegan, textures are really important. So yeah, you just want some crunch, you want some contrasting flavours. I'm going to pack these into my face like a little hamster. And I still need to finish off my other video. So I am gonna say a great big hello and thank you to my community on Patreon. They have very generously bought the ingredients for this video and all my other videos. Having that financial support makes the channel possible. If you'd like to show a bit of appreciation by way of money, I'll leave the link to my Patreon down in the description for you. There's a few different tiers, so pick whatever feels affordable for you. If you're on the hunt for lots more recipe inspiration that's delicious and plant-based, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Tap the little bell icon if you want to get an alert as soon as I publish a new one. While you're waiting for the next one, have a look at this.